Oh, okay. That's it.
Let me see now. Are you live? Looks like you are.
Oh gosh. Okay, everybody. If you see me live, you see I'm crazy.
Also,
Because it says live. Well, if you're here, welcome. Because it's a solo morning with Monday with the Moors. And y'all see what I'm doing, right? Y'all see how this is working for me? Yeah. Well, so I'm here and good morning, good morning, good morning. I like to say this is good morning, good morning. I'm not going to do that loud stuff that Terrence does. Good morning. But my partner is not physically here with me today, but he is in spirit. Safe travels to him. He had an early morning meeting. He had to drive out of town. Listen, this morning, I'm Cheryl Moore, and I would say Terrence Moore, but Terrence is probably somewhere driving and on live when he shouldn't be on live. But anyway, welcome, 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 welcome. And like I say, come on. I like to say, come on in, come on in, come on in, and share this live. I hope. Look at that. He just told me I'm listening. So, welcome, 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 welcome. So, this is my first time actually doing this solo and on my own. And I actually did not do bad with my setup. Not too bad, but you see, I was live and still talking. But anyway, getting some technical assistance there. This morning, we have been talking, last week, we talked about transitions. And today, I really want to talk about what I have, on opinions. I have been reading about the four agreements, about transforming your brain, and what I really wanted to share, and then the prayers of freedom in terms of that, where we make decisions, the parasite that we live with, not maybe some physical, but I really like to share some things that I've dealt with that affected our partnership. And part of that is it's really hard to break patterns, not just patterns, but behaviors, the way you're raised, the way you're taught, where you're almost having to unlearn what's been learned. And that can be really, really challenging. It can be really, really difficult. It can bring you into some real mental cycles of really doubting yourself, not believing who you are, and just not having the confidence in being able to really move forward. And so I want to share what that did to me in my mindset, and that I didn't see myself in love. I didn't see others in love. So if you don't love yourself, it's hard for you to give what you don't have, even though you say you're in love. It's really hard to understand the dynamics around that. But imagine loving yourself the way that you are. And I always struggled with body love, with loving myself, with not seeing myself, even though my husband of 30 plus years would say, "Oh, you're so beautiful. I love you so much." I always struggled with seeing what he saw. And even in that, I had to break that down and became very on the was offended sometimes when I would get compliments. And that's really deep, you all. I don't even know how to describe it when you can't even receive compliments because you feel like it's your duty. And so, what I'm saying is, opinions ran my life. And, good morning to you, those of you that are joining. Opinions ran my life. Not just expectations, what people expect of you. That's also a mind shift, right? That can mess you up, and it will mess you up because you live by the expectations. But when you have that dual dynamic that you're living by, expectations and opinions, that's deep. that's a lot to go through. And I still, when people want to give me advice without knowing the full scope, when people want to tell me what direction, give me ideas. One of the things that I do know, I had to really start prioritizing not just people, but I prioritize whether this is sound for my path, or is this an opinion. And lessons learned in someone else's journey does not mean that that's for you. One of the things that I've discovered is the fact that Terrence and I would talk about this all the time, where you can tell me what I should do, how I should do it, but you've never done it. Or you're giving me, you don't want to own up to the fact that what you're saying is out of what you weren't able to do, so I can do it. We can obviously share wisdom, we can share our experiences, but sometimes the opinions become obstacles. That's a whole word. Let me, girl, get some coffee on that one. Good morning to you if you're joining us live. Our opinions can become obstacles. Opinions have a short time, a short lifespan, and they become obsolete quickly. Depending on the source of those opinions, they can be damaging for a lifetime. They can take you off path. And I had a lot of opinions when I decided I was going to pursue my PhD. And part of that was the fact that I did not want to take a traditional route. I wanted to do something completely different. And I saw, because I'm very futuristic, I'm very prophetic, and I really embrace that more. But here's the caveat. I take opinions when it comes to what God is telling me to do, but I can surely encourage other people. So other people's ideas, concepts always became priority over what I knew in my heart. And I confused myself. Yep, I sure did. And when I decided I was going back to school, I didn't want to do it totally on ground. I had already had a traditional path. And in that traditional path, I decided, I saw the wave of the future, right? I knew that online, and you have to think, I earned my PhD in 2006. So think about my seeing something that's going to be on the breakthrough, right? It's going to be key, moving us forward. Those many that before I saw that, in the 90s, like right after I got my undergrad, like 1991, I finished up the undergrad, then waited, like I think in 2000 I got my MBA. But seeing that wave, I wanted to go to a college or a university, and I left a traditional brick and mortar because I wanted to teach there, and I didn't want the conflict on not being on faculty. And if you're in the Milwaukee area, it's Cardinal Street University. I was there for years. And I went to Capella so that I can dive deeper into what was going to be the next wave of education and community. Let's talk. I don't even want to talk about what I went through in a regret mode. The very fact and onset that I was blessed with that type of insight. And people came to me and said, online is hard. You can't do that. You don't have enough discipline. You procrastinate. You do this. You do this. I'm a grown married woman now. And those layers of things that I had conquered became opinions about an opportunity. Ooh, can we talk about that? When there are opinions about opportunities that will advance you and move forward, it's easy to say you can block it. I didn't, especially the source. And the significance of friends and families in my inner circle are very meaningful, mean a lot, because you want to make people proud. You want them to celebrate you. You want them, but I had to step into that boldly And to be honest, I did have some fear. I was afraid of, what if this doesn't work? What are they going to say? I told you so. What about this? But it did work. Not only did it work, it opened up a path where I have become renowned in academia for online learning. And my dream one day is to build out an online learning course for leadership, right? For people of color that are in leadership. So what I'm saying is, those opinions, now let's make it really personal. That would not have happened, but my partner was online. My partner was on board. Terrence was totally on board with it and supported it because he knew this next wave. When he had cancer, I was the caregiver, and we're here, and we had friends in our community that supported us during that time. But I needed to stay home, especially while our kids were in school. So being able to teach online, and I was a full-time adjunct. Listen, don't get stuck in the portal of where I have to provide. Oh, let's talk about that mind. That's a, I don't want to say what it is, but it's a mind mess up. Okay, that portal will damage your progress. And if I did not go to school online and learn it, I would not be able to, at that time, step in and have that type of flexibility in my life. And ladies and gentlemen, we don't work and live what our ancestors and our parents did years ago, right? You leave the house, you go, I needed that flex, and that was provided because I was bold enough to follow. Although I have to say fear was present, I still did it. Maybe this is, I just know this is being a blessing to someone, because opinions can really become obstacles. That would have been, that it's an emotional poison that we really don't consider and we really don't look at. But I want you to know that you can do it. So that's something that I was reading about, how we make these agreements in the spirit and how we make these agreements with things and not realizing why we can't move forward because of opinions that have been just laying and dangling over our heads. I will also say, when I decided to launch my own business years ago, and let me tell you how I listened to an opinion about stopping that and going back to brick and mortar instead of going through a time where it was a growth period. Doing things differently will come with opinions, but those opinions can't be what you live off of. And they truly became, now I find myself years later looking at a life that I had, and now here I am not realizing that I've given up too much, right? So now I'm kind of like in a redemptive period of reflecting, looking at what I've given up. Whew, because of opinions. And they were not opinions generated from me, but I discounted my own destiny. I discounted my path. I felt that what was external and external voices had more power over my person. Now I know that's a big, like, wow for some of you, but that's true because we all want that affirmation. We all want it, but sometimes affirmation from others, unless it's affirming inside of you, will truly stifle not just your growth, but it will stifle your wealth. It will stifle your empowerment. And I'm big on empowerment. I'm big on the fact that, you should not embrace totally, people can have wisdom. And if it's poor, be mindful. I walked away from that because I felt like it was too much. I felt like my adjunct work, my teaching online, the consulting business, it became overbearing. And instead of repositioning my life, I went back to what I understood. What I understood and what I grew up with one position, one job. Terrence said he looked at his life And right, Terrence, see how I did that? And it was one position. You know, his parents worked one, you know, always had one job. My parents at some points, I think my mom worked like one or a couple, but more one profession. That, and they retired out of that. And his family retired, his parents retired from that. But that's not who we are. And it's not a discount, but it's who we are now that's bringing us into to evolve, that this segment of who I am no longer serves me well. God is now evolving. I'm in another evolution to say I can not just multitask, but I am a multi-dimensional. And I would put that on my profile all the time, multi-individual. We would oftentimes, listen, religion will get you, right? And say, you're confused. But when we look at what's generating my collective creativity, right? That's what I call it. My collective creativity. This has been, now I've created out of opinions an obstacle. Let me give you an example. Another one. I gave the one about school and going online. I put that down and went back to doing one job, right? So let me tell you, I put everything into one opportunity only to have the institution, not recently, but before. So I'm showing you a cycle years ago where I stopped consulting. People were asking me, clients were asking me, businesses were asking me, people wanted individual path coaching that I used to do. And now I'm looking at myself saying, I've got so much more to give. And I feel like I'm in a startup, right? I feel like now I'm in a startup because I put it down instead of managing it because of opinions. This is too much. You're stressing yourself out, but they were valuable in my life. People can provide you only from their experience. That is it. But if you are called to break the monotony and to bring in, when I think we put a clamp down on creativity, we put boundaries and call it do too much. And I don't even want to talk about the damage that is done to not only our finances, because I wouldn't move, because I think people wouldn't buy my ebook. I think people won't buy this product. And then 10 years later, I see it in the store. Ooh, talk about that could be traumatized. That's trauma. And your girl takes some coffee. And by the way, did y'all see I told y'all the braids was coming back? Oh, she tells the truth. But have you ever experienced, this is a question asked, what are some opinions that are obstacles in my life? Because you hold those in regard. We idolize ignorance. Woo! And she takes some coffee on that. Have no notes. We don't ever have no notes when you do these lives, but just the word be flowing. We idolize ignorance. And I am truly saying that to you. You have to call it what it is. And it starts within you. And going against what I know is not truth for me is the truth. And that is not, it's not something fake. Only you know you. People will see you in the same version of what they've interacted, same version of what they've done, because that's their experience with you then, may not be now. Okay? We can reminisce on memories. We can remember. But listen, those memories cannot become our mind, right? Reminders of what we should do. Reminders sometimes turn and revert us backwards. And so consider that in terms of these opinions. Now, let's bring it to the marriage, because that's how I related to myself. And I brought that into our marriage. Terrence is an entrepreneur, right, Terrence? Because I told y'all he traveling, right? He's probably online. You better be listening and not driving in on Facebook. Let me tell you, and not knowing he was an adventurous. My husband is not one that's some traditional form, and I try to put him in that form based. So my opinions became obstacles, and his became obstacles to me too. But he was a little more supportive. He's a traditionalist and wanting to be that provider and all this. I'm like, whoever make the money, make the money. Let's just share. Let's share and shop together, right? But tradition and opinions and what we've been exposed to would say something different. When you are called to build that life in a love and a life of happiness and joy, it may not look like anything before. And knowing that you are conquering new territory in your life, we have done things that were like, why are you doing that? The economy is bad. Y'all shouldn't start a business. You need to keep your jobs. You need to do this. You need to do that. Opinions. I didn't ask you. You got to look at where your options are coming from, right? You might say you don't know, but life happens. I'm not an exception. And did I just create a word, y'all? I probably did. I'm not an exception to life. Ooh, I feel the power right now. Y'all didn't feel that? Terrence, put it in their chat if you feel the power. I know you feel the power. But we idolize these things, and the internal idolatry is real. And then we look at our life later. You know how many times I've said this year, I'm 56, I'm going through this. I'm 56 and da-da-da-da-da. I'm 56. And memories would come up so that I can address those blockages, those obstacles in my mind, in my heart, so that we can move forward. And he's had to do the same thing. And listen, it's come to where, do you want it or not? Are you going to do it or not? I lacked belief, and my belief was buried under opinion. Oh, God, I feel that. Oh, hallelujah. Put it in there, hon. My belief in me was buried under the opinions, which are oppressive. Ha, ha, ha. I love you, Pastor Bishop Locke. Bishop Locke, why you Luckett? Bishop Lockett, why are you in my dream world I had this week? I hadn't even told. I'm telling you, I feel like I want to, I'm a Pisces, I cry all the time. And that part, I would be told, I became so out of myself and character because I am very sensitive, very emotional, but build up these obstacles and barriers not to cry. And when you have been in abusive relationships with people and abusive work situations and abusive ministry situations and social circles, to be accepted, you will lose yourself because you are buried under that. All of that buries your identity. And now you have to go through the phoenix to rise after you've been buried. So now you've probably disintegrated to ashes. And so to access all of that, these opinions, because they're light, they're so short term, they have a short lifespan, these obstacles, to wait until that weight gets up off of you. And so, as we kind of wrap up today, and thank you for that, this is a journey. And can I say this part? Being a Black woman, a minority, it's now majority, makes those opinions matter even more. You know why? Because we didn't have anything to hinge on. We followed what was not the blueprint. We followed something that wasn't the blueprint for me. It wasn't the blueprint. We did what we knew. So if you come out of an enslaved mentality, you enslave others because that's what you know. You don't know anything else until you learn to trust what's internal. Greater is the person within you than the person in the world. Greater, it's internal, and then it magnifies. It illuminates in an external way. And so for that, opinions become barriers. Do you know how many opinions from external points, external voices have affected our marriage? What Terrence should be, how he should be. He talks so much. You should be doing it. Did we ask you? She takes coffee on that. I bet some of y'all didn't know that, right? Nobody asked you, right? We look at the limitations, the limit view, the limit point of engagement. When you engage somebody for 2-3 minutes or even 8 hours a day just because you work with them, doesn't mean you have ownership of them. You don't know them. You see a small smidgen of their identity. And so our words create worlds, right? The worlds were formed. And so when we look at that, opinions, I would bring the, like Terrence, maybe you said that, but that then suppressed his identity. Then he was like, Cheryl, I don't want you working like this, da, da, da. But then that oppressed who I was and what I can do. And so we brought this collective oppression together out of all of these opinions on what we should be doing, how we should be doing things, where we should be doing things. I mean, I love you. Thank you so much. Okay, should I say Auntie Reed? Well, she is Auntie Reed. This is our live. This is our podcast. Well, Mondays with the more. Our opinions can be obstacles. You got to know the difference between an opinion and an opportunity. And a word of opportunity comes with something that advances you and provides you with an opening in your mind, an opening in your heart, an opening in your spirit, your collective being. It provides an opportunity. Did you feel that, Terrence? All right, listen. I made it through this live. I made it through our podcast. I'm calling it live podcast. I am grateful because I was reading about opinions, and I am grateful that I'm seeing those opinions that were obstacles. And in those obstacles, it became a barrier and buried obstacles. Those opinions buried. Those opinions became obstacles that buried opportunities for me. And that affected our partnership, right? Things that I should have been doing, I could have advanced on. Thank you for that, Bishop. Advanced on, just didn't happen because I'm suppressed under opinions of those who are most of the time aren't brave enough to do it, right? Don't want to deal with what they're called to do, so they want to control what you are called to do. And that's it, and without understanding all that get an understanding and not do that. So take that. Oops, is this an opinion that's going to eventually be an obstacle that's going to bury an opportunity? There's something where at some point in their life, and some of you can probably agree with this if you're going to look at the replay, you got to start growing up. Get up out of the gutter of wanting people to celebrate you. Who cares? You know, I say what I want to say. Sometimes I don't even have a response. I'm learning to govern my response. Why am I going to waste my time explaining it to you when I know you don't have the experience? Sometimes we explain where there's no experience. And so consider that. Consider that. This is Monday with the Moors. And your girl, I am visible. He is in spirit. And we will be back on next Monday. Oops, no opinions, only opportunities. Take care.